So it is suggested that to carpet a plant, you must have CO2 and highlighting in your aquarium, but it is possible to achieve a lush green carpet without the need of highlighting or CO2, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 carpeting plants that you can carpet in your aquarium and make your aquascape look beautiful without any need of CO2 or medium to highlighting. Let's dive straight into the video. First up, we have the Eliocaris pavula, also known as the dwarf hairgrass, but this is a really cool looking plant if you want to get a really fine grass sort of carpet in your aquarium, and it's a pretty big one too. This is a great plant for you. So the process of propagating this plant and carpeting it is really easy. All you got to do is when you get the dwarf hairgrass, you're going to want to break it into little bits, try break them as little as possible, and then you're just going to plant them about a centimeter apart from each other across the area where you want it to carpet. Then in a month, or it can be up to a few months, it all depends on how long it's going to take to get used to the tank and blend in with the environment. But once they start taking off, they're going to send runners through the substrate or on top, and what's going to happen there is then they're going to shoot more pieces of grass out in the substrate, and they will just multiply all across the substrate, and you'll have a carpet in no time. You don't need any highlighting, but if you do have a tall tank, I recommend that you try go with the normal dwarf hairgrass, because then they won't need to be reaching high to the light as much. The normal hairgrass is a bit different to the dwarf hairgrass. The normal hairgrass is quite bigger, and since you're going to have low lighting, they're going to try reach to the light at first, but if they already have enough light to start propagating, then they will just start shooting off, and you'll have a carpet. But they are a very easy plant to keep. In fact, I'll leave a link to a care guide I did right above the screen, and you can check that out at the end of the video if you want. But yeah, super easy carpeting plant, and certainly worth trying, and very popular too. Shouldn't have a hard time trying to find it. Now, I'm horrible at saying this, but next up we have the Liliopsis, or the Microsword. So the Liliopsis, I'm not sure if that's how you meant to pronounce it, but that's how I do. Anyway, the Microsword is another awesome carpeting plant that replicates grass in a way. So it's a bit more of a different type of grass that you'd have in your lawn. It's pretty cool, and it's got these kind of round spade-like sort of pieces of grass. They're very different to the normal swords you'll see, like the Amazon swords and the Blahari swords. They're completely different. It's just they're called the Microsword for some reason. Now, I've seen people achieving a really nice carpet without any highlighting and no CO2. Of course, that's not needed with any of these plants, but you definitely don't need it with this plant. Try to make sure you have fertilizers in the tank though. I recommend root tabs and liquid fertilizers. So Flourish XL is a great liquid fertilizer, and I recommend it because if you do have blackbeard algae on your plants, then that can possibly ruin it, and they'll probably die off. Yeah, it won't look good at all, and it'll be ruined. So I recommend you regularly put in some liquid fertilizers and root tabs to keep them going nice and healthy, but usually not too expensive, and it's a lot cheaper than putting CO2 in the tank or getting a very expensive light. Number 3, we have the Pearlweed. So Pearlweed is probably the easiest plant to carpet. You just need to have some water, a heated tank, and at least a reasonable light. You can have a floodlight even with these plants, and it can be all the way down to low lighting conditions to get a really beautiful carpet. I've seen with other fish keepers though, with their experience, it does grow very fast. So you're going to need to trim it at least once a week, or else it's going to take off too much. And what I've heard is that when they grow too big, the whole carpet's going to come out of the substrate and float to the top. Now, Pearlweed is also known for being a floating plant too. Like, you can float it, but it does do great as a carpeting plant. It'll just carpet itself, so it might take maybe a few weeks. It'll take a period of time for it to adjust to the new environment once you get it from another place. But this plant can be pretty rare, and in fact, it is pretty uncommon, especially where I live here in Australia. So if you can get your hands on it, I highly recommend you try it, and it does look really cool and a great centerpiece. Do you want to put a plant in that's very different from any other plant you've probably seen? Well, the next plant we have is the Christmas moss. Christmas moss is basically replicating a Christmas tree. Each leaf, or whatever you want to call it, it'll basically have like that sort of Christmas tree shape. It's really cool, and it's very consistent across the whole of it. What will happen is it will grow heaps of those. It's going to look really unique and strange. So I definitely recommend you try this. You just got to glue it to a rock, or you weigh it onto the ground or something like that, and basically it'll just grow in. could possibly just like let it drift near the bottom and it'll probably plant itself in or grip itself in and start a carpet. It can be a bit expensive though, but if you are looking into making a really unique aquascape, this can be a great addition to it. Sagittaria subulata is number 5, certainly not least, but on the list. Another low-light plant, no CO2 required at all, and it is a very cool plant. It kind of replicates Vallisneria in a way, like a very mini Vallisneria that kind of goes like that, but they're really cool, and just like the Dwarf Hairgrass, they're going to create runners and they're just going to spread across the tank. Great for beginners, and it is quite common if you have like a guppy tank or some sort of breeding tank and you have the parents and you're going to raise the fry with them. Dwarf Sagittaria provides lots of hiding places for the fry, as it will have kind of shelter underneath those thin leaves. It is a really cool plant, and there's other types of Sagittarias out there, but you can create a really beautiful short carpet going across, not like something huge. It's great for your smaller nano aquariums, and it does replicate lots of native plants here in Australia too, which is pretty cool, and your fish will love it, and it's great protection for any small fish. Well, there you have my top 5 carpeting plants that you don't need CO2 to grow or highlighting. So I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content just like this. Otherwise, have a great day, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.